The Tomorrow War is a 2021 Hollywood sci-fi action thriller that revolves around a desperate battle for humanity's survival against a deadly alien species known as the White Spikes. The story begins in the present day, 2022, when soldiers from the year 2051 suddenly arrive through a time portal during the FIFA World Cup final, delivering a dire warning. Humanity is losing a global war against these alien invaders and is on the brink of extinction. The protagonist, Dan Forrester, is a biology teacher and former Green Beret who is struggling with his life. He fails to secure a job at the United States Army Research Laboratory and is estranged from his father, James Forrester, who abandoned him during childhood. Dan lives with his wife Emmy and young daughter Miri. The arrival of the future soldiers disrupts his life, as a global draft is initiated to send people from the past to fight in the future war. Anne receives the draft notice and is fitted with an electronic vambrace to track him. Despite attempts to remove it with his wife and father's help, Dan leaves without removing the device. Along with other draftees, Dan is sent 30 years into the future to Miami Beach, Florida. However, the deployment goes wrong. They are dropped too high above the city, causing many to die on impact, while Dan and some others survive by landing in the water. Dan quickly becomes a leader among the survivors due to his military experience. The group is ordered by Romeo Command to rescue scientists from a nearby laboratory before the area is bombed. They find the lab staff dead but manage to recover important research data. The survivors are then transported to a military base in Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic. At the base, Dan discovers that Romeo Command is actually his grown daughter, Colonel Miri Forrester. Miri is leading the resistance against the White Spikes and has been working on a toxin that kills the male White Spikes, but not the females, who are rarer and breed rapidly. She recruits Dan to help capture a female White Spike to study why the toxin is ineffective against her. Dan and Maury's team successfully captures a female White Spike, but are soon overwhelmed by male White Spikes attacking their position. They escape with the female and retreat to the Jump Link, a fortified oil rig in the ocean that serves as a research base. There, Dan and Maury work on developing a toxin that can kill the female White Spike. During an intense attack on the Jump Link, Maury is severely injured by the female White Spike. Before dying, she asks Dan to take the toxin back to the past to mass produce it, as humanity's survival in this timeline seems impossible. Dan reconciles with Maury before being transported back to 2022 with the toxin. Back in the present, Dan tries to convince the military to mass produce and send the toxin to the future. However, he learns that the Jump Link is offline, destroyed by the White Spikes, signaling that the future war is lost. Dan explains the situation to his wife, and together with his friend Dorian and scientist Charlie, they analyze a White Spike claw and discover volcanic ash from the Changbai Mountain's Millennium eruption embedded in it. This leads to a new theory. The White Spikes were already on Earth, frozen beneath the polar ice caps, and global warming caused them to thaw and emerge earlier than expected. Dan approaches the military for support, but is denied without proof. He then turns to his estranged father, James, for help in assembling a team to investigate further. Dan leads a mission to Severnaya Zemlya, an archipelago in northern Russia, where they discover an alien ship frozen in ice. Inside, they find that the White Spikes were cargo transported by another alien species to wipe out planets. The team injects the White Spikes with the toxin, killing many, but this also awakens others, leading to a fierce battle. Dorian and another soldier sacrifice themselves by detonating a bomb to destroy the alien ship and contain the threat. However, the female White Spike escapes. Dan and James track her down and engage in a final confrontation. Dan manages to kill the female by forcing the toxin down her throat, effectively ending the alien threat and preventing the future war from occurring. The story concludes with Dan reuniting with his daughter Murray, who is alive in this new timeline, and introducing her to James, his father. The timeline has been altered, and humanity is given a second chance to avoid the devastating future war. Genre: sci-fi action thriller with time travel and alien invasion themes. Setting: starts in 2022 and moves to 2051, with key locations including Miami Beach, Dominican Republic, and Arctic Russia. Main characters: Dan Forrester, protagonist, former soldier and teacher. Murray Forrester, his daughter and future resistance leader. James Forrester, Dan's estranged father. Emmy Forrester, Dan's wife. Antagonists: white spikes, a deadly alien species with lethal males and a rare, resilient female. Plot themes: time travel, family reconciliation, survival, sacrifice, and scientific discovery. Climactic twist: white spikes were on Earth all along, thawed by global warming and transported by another alien species. Ending: Dan prevents the future war by killing the female white spike in the past, altering the timeline.